Good afternoon. Oh, wait a second. Good afternoon. My name is Bruce Hicken. I am a CPA and I'm also the controller for Vermont Student Assistance Corporation. What do all these things mean? Well, I guess we'll get to that. But for now, of course, pardon me for starting off with the music on because, hey, like the rest of you, I'm working at home. Like most of VSAC, I'm working at home, and of course, I'm preparing a presentation for all you fine young students today while working from home. So, without further ado, let's just get into that. As you can see, this is what my home office looks like. So, all kinds of in my office goodies there. I got my coffee, got my music somewhere around the house. I've got my cat. But my wife, who works for Vermont Teddy Bear, is back at work there. So, all right. So let's just get right into this here. As I said earlier, my title, my professional designation, if you will, is CPA. My wife would tell you that that means that I am a constant pain in the, well, never mind about that. The business world would tell you that that means I am a certified public accountant. So what does that mean? Well, we'll get to that during this talk, but the important thing is that a certified public accountant is first and foremost an accountant. In other words, all CPAs start out their lives, or at least their professional lives, as accountants. But not all accountants become CPAs, certified public accountants. So what is this special thing called an accountant? Well, an accountant is someone who creates and interprets accounting information, right? So that's the very definition of a circular definition. Of course, I use the word definition to define definition. So there's another one. I'm just loaded with them today. What is accounting? What is accounting information? Why is it different from other information like the sky is blue or it's supposed to rain tomorrow? Accounting and accounting information, put simply, is the language of business and finance. It's information that tells you about the financial and operational performance of business or financial enterprises. So there you go. It's a foreign language if you don't know it. It's like Sanskrit or Latin or Spanish or French, right? It's accountant. It's the language of business. You use it to tell people how a business is doing, how a business has done, how a business can improve in the future. So, at a very, very high level, there are two kinds of accounting information. There is accounting information that will tell you what the financial condition of an organization is at a point in time. Like today, VSAC is doing fairly well. But there's also financial information that will tell you how a business organization performs over time. So in other words, what is their condition today? That's one type of accounting information, most commonly called a balance sheet, or well, that's back when I was in college in the Jurassic Age. But nowadays, sometimes they call that a statement of financial position because over time, accountants have decided that more words are better than fewer words. But I still call it a balance sheet. And a financial statement that tells you how a business entity such as VSAC or the state of Vermont or Facebook or anybody else, a financial statement that tells you how they have performed over time is generally, again, back in the Jurassic Age, called an income statement. Nowadays, it might be called a statement of changes in revenue and expenses or something very long and tedious like that. The names are not really standardized, and as you can tell, they have changed in the approximately 200 million years since I went to college. But they mean the same thing. A balance sheet tells you what a corporation has for assets, cash, building, cars, trucks, desks, computers, and it tells you who owns a bit or a piece of those assets. Does the management own them? Did they borrow money to buy those things? In which case, then the management doesn't own 100% of those things. And of course, the income statement of changes in financial condition, that will tell you what were your revenue, what were your items of income during the period. If you're like VSAC, did you get money from the federal government? You get money from the state government. You get money from borrowers who are paying back their loans. You get money from a lot of different places. What do you spend money on? Well, VSAC spends money on its employees, like me and your friendly Gear Up or Trio counselor. It spends money on the benefits plan for us. It spends money on interest, on money that we borrow so that we can then lend it out to VSAC clients who need to borrow money. So there's a whole multitude of things that a business organization might take money in for and what it might spend money out from. And hopefully it takes more in than it spends out. Otherwise, it's running a loss. To make a net income, you have to have more income than you have expenses. This is very important for organizations which are called for-profit enterprises, like, say, Facebook or I don't know, McDonald's. But for somebody like VSAC, who is considered a not-for-profit organization, it's not necessarily important that we make a profit. It's only important that we have enough income to cover our expenses, because our mission is not to make a profit. It's to serve you, in essence, and all the fine Vermont students like you who aspire to go to college someday and need a little help and a little guidance for it. Accounting information starts its life at a very detailed level, what we call a transaction level. I bought this pen from Staples. I need to put it on my credit card. I need to, or put it on my VSAC credit card. I bought this important accounting device from some vendor and I need to pay for it. I worked for the last X period of time for VSAC and they need to pay me for this pay period. These are all detail level items. Typically, being involved with accounting information at that kind of detail is a job not for an accountant, but for a bookkeeper or a clerk or a specialist, or there's a number of different terms for this profession. We'll talk about how a bookkeeper is different from an accountant. An accountant is typically a person who supervises a group of people who are entering detail level accounting detail. The accountant is the person who manages the overall process of aggregating and summarizing for management the accounting information. So it would typically not be a role for a bookkeeper to explain to a manager or an investor what a financial statement means. That would be a role for an accountant. So there you go. That's kind of a higher level function. So how does one become one of these things? How does one become a bookkeeper? How does one become an accountant? Well, there's a very important first step. And that first step is to finish high school. Even I did that. I can't say I finished high school with a tremendous high level of success, but nonetheless, I did finish high school. I was able to be qualified to attend a college or a university. Now, if your desire in life is to be a bookkeeper, in other words, to finish your training fairly quickly and enter the workforce and make a respectable living for yourself, because again, at the end of the day, that's the point of higher education. Then perhaps you would be interested in the bookkeeper track. The bookkeeper track, typically, you can get the training you need at a 2-year institution like Community College of Vermont, Champlain College, someplace like this. Typically, a bookkeeper is a 2-year degree. And again, once you once you get that degree and you become employed in that capacity, you'll make a living. It's a good living. You will find that you very quickly will hit a ceiling or a plateau to your job advancement expectations. So that's the only real downside to that. You make less. There's less expectations placed on you, and you're really not going to be promoted to, excuse me, senior levels of management in the world of accounting. To do that, you really want to get a bachelor's degree. Some colleges call them BS degrees, Bachelor of Science, not what you might think. Some of them give you a Bachelor of Arts or BA degree, but any way you look at it, it's a 4-year degree. And that will get you where you need to go for many fields of accounting. However, in recent years, there has become some expectation that you will have further courses of study if you want to enter very specialized fields of accounting. For example, to become a constant pay certified public accountant like myself, back when I did it in the Jurassic Age, it was enough just to have the 4-year degree and to have worked for a year in accounting, in public accounting. And then I could sit for the exam, and if I passed the exam, then boom, I become a CPA, at least in the state of Florida, which is where I was at the time. Nowadays, many states, including the state of Vermont, will require you to study for a year after your bachelor's degree, so that time isn't kind of wasted time. Many accounting schools will have created a 1-year master's degree. It's called a Master's of Accountancy. So you go to school for 5 years, you get a bachelor's and a master's. It's a Master of Accountancy. It's not the same as an MBA, but it does qualify you to sit for the Certified Public Accountant exam in most states. If you sit for that exam and you're successful and you fulfill the work experience requirement of your state, voila, congratulations, you're a CPA, something that very few people in the field of accounting manage to pull off. Another area of specialization is tax accounting. Many people who are interested in tax accounting after they get their 4-year accounting degree go to law school. Yes, that's right, law school, and where they specialize in tax law, not any of the other areas that you might specialize in law. So there you go. That's kind of how you become a CPA. What are the various special roles that you might have for an accountant? Well, we talked about a bookkeeper. Many people in the field of accounting start their lives working for big CPA firms. These are firms that provide accounting services to other businesses that are not their business, sort of like a lawyer does work for their clients. A doctor does work for his patients. He doesn't work on himself, right? So a CPA firm does accounting work for other organizations that require a CPA and don't necessarily want to employ one. So to work as that is very much the role of an outsider looking in, especially the public accounting role par excellence, which is to be an auditor. An auditor is a person who comes from the outside, is independent of a business, looks at that business, looks at their financial information, and issues an opinion as to whether their financial information is reasonably accurate. Not precisely exactly correct, but is it reasonably accurate? Does this information give you the general correct impression about how this business is doing? So that's what an auditor does. At the end of the day, by the way, that's the only thing being a CPA really means. A CPA, in addition to all the prestige and everything else associated with it, a CPA is a professional license conferred upon me by the states where I have it, which are Florida, Tennessee, and Vermont. You can see I've gradually migrated north, the opposite direction of my family. It's a license like being a lawyer, like being a doctor, a hairdresser, a dog groomer, anything of that nature. A CPA is just a license for me to issue that opinion on somebody else's financial statements. However, because I haven't been working in this for most of my career, I'd be a complete fool to do so. It's a specialized skill like any other specialized skill, like you wouldn't go to a foot doctor if you had cancer, that sort of thing. Um, an accounting manager or a controller. I'm a controller. I'm the controller of VSAC. I work for the treasurer of VSAC, which is a step up from me on the accounting food chain. And I have a person working for me who is an accounting manager who works just beneath me on a stepped organizational structure. So we are together, the three of us, the accounting manager, the controller, and the CFO or treasurer. We are the lead accounting people of the organization. And we'll come back to what they do in just a second. VSAC also employs an internal auditor. An internal auditor is somebody who works within an organization to audit different departments of that organization. Typically, you'd only have them in a larger organization. VSAC has many departments, 150 employees. So we have an internal auditor, somebody who can come and look at my department or any other department and make sure that we are following the rules that the leadership of Vermont Student Assistance Corporation has placed it for us. As we said earlier, there's also accountants who specialize in taxes. There are forensic accountants, which is a new and emerging and really seems to be a fascinating field. These are accountants who work at the intersection of accounting and the law. In other words, a lot of times in a court of law, somebody might need an accountant to speak on the stand, to testify on the stand and give expert testimony. So again, this is what forensic accounting is. Many people think associating with forensic medicine, which they associate with, looking at dead people and trying to figure out how they died, which you might say that forensic accounting sometimes can be looking at organizations that did poorly and went bankrupt and trying to figure out what went wrong, how did the owners keep it secret from the investors, that sort of thing. But ultimately, the end goal of all these things, whether it's forensic medicine or forensic accounting, is to help somebody prepare a case either as a prosecutor or a defender. So that's a really fascinating area. If I hadn't gone to school in Jurassic period, if I was going to school now, that might be what I'd study. So a controller, that's what I do. I really like it. I think it's an aspirational goal for anybody in the field of accounting. And the reason I feel this is because I hardly ever get bored. I am the opposite of a specialist. I have to interact with auditors. I have to prepare even though we're a not-for-profit at VSAC, we do have an annual information return that we have to submit to the IRS. So I prepare that. I have to interact with my staff to make sure that our monthly and annual financial statements are completed on time and accurately. I then have to take those statements and present them to higher levels of management at VSAC and interpret them for them. They're going to have questions. Aside from my boss, the CFO, for the most part, they're not accountants. That's the great thing about being a controller is you're working primarily with people who are not accountants, and you're having to translate, if you will, interpret accounting information for them. And it's a role that I really enjoy, as opposed to a bunch of accountants, going out to work, going out to a bar after work and having a drink and talking about accounting until 10 o'clock. I'd rather try to help other people understand how their organization is doing and how the accounting information presents that. Who is right for this? Who's the right person to take on this role? Well, first of all, you have to be really, really, really great at math. All right, so that was a joke. When I was a young person, the thing that interested me more than anything in life were reptiles. I loved reptiles. I lived for a while. I was a military brat. I lived in California. As you might imagine, there were lizards, snakes, tortoises, all over the place. I loved reptiles. And that's what I wanted to study more than anything in this world when I got to be a big person. Unfortunately, I came up against Algebra 2 in high school. And because Various levels of higher mathematics are required to major in any of the sciences, such as biology and herpetology, the study of reptiles and amphibians, is a discipline within zoology or biology. I was not able to proceed any further. Flat out got terrible grades in math. But I still wanted to go to college. I went to college. And when I was thinking about what to major, I started out majoring in business. And within that, I very quickly realized that I liked my accounting classes more than all my other classes. Classes that I took in marketing, management, they just seemed to be just common sense, whereas accounting seemed like a real skill, like learning a language, like learning to speak Spanish or French or Sanskrit or Latin. So having to know a lot of math, especially at the higher detail levels, algebra 2, calculus, trig, this is absolutely not required. You might find a few odd questions on the CPA exam someday, but any good review program is going to help you get over there. It's absolutely not required. I have gotten through my entire professional career with the help of one of these. A basic 5-function calculator does just fine. Maybe 20 times in the course of my career, I've had to do a algebra equation solving for 2 variables. So don't need to know a lot of math. So what do you need to know? Who do you need to be? What personal attributes do you need to have? First and foremost, you need to be a person who is consistent and detail-oriented. A controller needs to be a controller, an accountant, a bookkeeper needs to be somebody who can work at a very detailed level, get their mind around details, and be consistent. Accounting details need to be recorded the same way every time, this day, tomorrow, next week. Somebody needs to be consistent. Just like when you speak the language English, Spanish, French, there's a certain grammar. There's a set of rules that describe how you speak this, what words go after what words in order to make an intelligible sentence. So you need to be consistent and detail-oriented. At the same time, you need to be creative. I sort of talked earlier about how things were different from when I went to school back in the Jurassic Age. Change happens, even in the world of accounting. It certainly happens in the world of business. You need to be somebody who accepts and manages change. You need to help other people in your organization accept and manage change. People don't like change. You need to be one of those people who can get over that, accept it, and manage through it. You need to anticipate problems that your organization might have. You need to anticipate those problems, and you need to help management devise solutions. You need to work well with people and in teams. I know there's kind of this impression that accountants are dull, boring. People would rather be working off alone, in a corner with a dark eye shade and whatnot. But no, to be a successful accountant and to progress in the field of accounting, you need to work well with people and you need to work well in teams. You need to work well to be a controller. You need to work well in teams where everybody is not an accountant. You need to, as I've said earlier. Finally, you need to be able to master a detailed and specialized skill set, and you need to be able to interpret that and explain it to others who perhaps have not mastered it. So those are basically the things you need to do to become an accountant, to know if it's right for you. If you want something that takes a lot of expertise, that takes a very specialized skill set, and you don't want to stay in college for 8 years that it takes to become a doctor or a lawyer, accounting could be the field for you. If you want to do something that is practical and rewarding in the fairly near term, you can go to school for 4 or 5 years, go to college for 4 or 5 years, and come out with a degree where you're pretty employable, and you can, within 5 to 10 years of being out of school, you can be moving up pretty well in an organization and making an important contribution. It's not like a discipline like science or math where you might have to stay in school for, I don't know how long it takes to get a PhD, but, you might be in school for 8 or 10 years. Well, if you become an accountant, you could be really joining the management team of an organization, depending, again, on your qualifications and your skill set and your talent base. You could be doing really well and making a very important contribution in a business organization at a point in time when, alternative, history Bruce, who went to school and did well in math and became a herpetologist, was just getting out of school with his PhD and heading off to Arizona to study reptiles. Well, guess what? Real life Bruce was already, 5 or 6 years out of school, and he was the controller for a major corporation at one of their business locations, in this case in Houston, Galveston, Texas. So there you go. That's me, Bruce Hicken, CPA. That's just a nutshell about what CPAs do. If any of it sounds interesting to you, I'm sure, we live in the age of Google and the internet. We all got these phone devices, just like the one I'm recording this on. So there's lots to learn out there. I'm sure you have an advisor who can tell you. You can also talk to your Gear Up or Trio advisor, and they can give you some ideas about how to get in touch with me if you're really, really, really interested. Always happy to help. Take care. Have a great week. Good luck with your educational career.